Shalom, people. This is Brother Lyles coming at you with another video, and it was some articles out of the Army Times that I have been meaning to talk to you about that I think has will have bearing on us as Black people, as Hebrew people, especially our brothers and sisters that are in Africa. Wanted to talk about our article that came out in Military Time, Army Times, talking about the new head of U.S. African Command, General Michael Langley. I think I had stated his name before as McMichael. I don't know, maybe because his name was Michael, but his name is General Michael Langley. He's a 4-star. He's a U.S. Marine. African Command right now is headquarters in Stuttgart, Germany. And it basically controls all military operations, on the continent. And so we know that if Africa is such a major portion of the earth as it is, that this guy right here uh, has great uh, power. He has great power, because when you look at Europe Command, it's not as big as Africa. When you look at the Middle East Command, it's not as big. You look now when you look at the Pacific Command, that could be because that's more cause of spread out and maybe the population, whatever. But even with that, I think the AFRICOM Command could beat that. And he's a black man, but the thing that we must understand is that they're not going to put any black man in charge of the African Command that is not a true believer in their systems. And this is a picture of him, just so that you will know what he looks like right here. If you can see that picture right there. And if you know anything like I do about military, you can look at this guy and you can look at his resume. You can pull it up. You can go on the internet and pull up the resume for General Michael Langley. You see he's a true believer, that he's American apple pie, through and through. They say he is a native of Shreveport, Louisiana. So there's no doubt that he probably has faced some racism and different things like that. They say he was commissioned in 1985. So he came in the military about around the same time that I did. In fact, looking at some of his deployments, he was actually deployed in Somalia when I was. He was over there in '93 at the time that I was. So he is a true believer. And so why is this so important? Because right now there is a battle going on in the motherland right now, uh economically wise, right, between the China, Russia, and America for the resources. America, Britain, and all the European nations, they're not going quietly in the night to allow China and Russia to run roughshod over the continent like they do, or Japan, because Japan is uh, also there, but that they need a black face to try to get back into favor with the African nations, that they might deal more kindly with this guy, right? But I'm telling the African nations and any of my brothers and sisters to be wary of people like this. Remember that Judas was numbered among the 12. And although, like I said, this guy in his mind might not be thinking that the policies that he's going to implement in Africa are bad because they're the entrance of the United States of America. But for the black people of Africa and for us here in the diaspora, it's going to be bad, because it's never going to allow the African nations to break free, to maybe disannul some of these borders that they have, to cut down on the number of foreign military bases, both American, Chinese, and Russian, that's in their nation. No, his thing is to keep those things tight, right? And they got this guy, along with the um, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who is a black man, also to try to come in and say, Africa, we're here to help you. We're here to make sure that you got all the vaccines that you need. We're here to make sure that China and Russia doesn't take advantage of you by building all these roads and railroads and railroad lines and all this kind of different things. We're here to do that. And I'm here to let you know that we need to be leery of this African. You need to be leery of the fact that the Tigray people in the rest of Ethiopia had a time of peace for a little while. And then, just as Ethiopia had finished the Renaissance Dam, here the Tigray people now are going back in the war. They're pulling children out of school, giving them, arming them. They're taking food stuff that the UN and others are sending in for the Tigray people, because there's famines going on in parts of Ethiopia because of this constant war. And so this guy, Michael Langley, is over all this. And the CIA also too, but primarily him. Al-Shabaab, which will not allow Somalia to get a foothold into running itself and being a prosperous nation that it can be, especially since they discovered that they have or deposits of oil off their coast between them and Kenya. They don't want it. So they got this Al-Shabaab thing that's going on in bombings and stuff, that's allowing now U.S. AFRICOM to insert forces back into Somalia to keep that nation, which, by the way, has one of the better cellular tower networks in Africa, to be disrupted, right? When I went into Somalia in 1993 and 94, the time that I was there, they had a refinery there, but it had been shut down. It was an Amoco refinery. So this country, now of course it's too old now to be used, but the fact is, this country could be also a power in East Africa. It could cut down on some of the famines and stuff that's going on in Somalia if they're allowed to get a economic foothold, right? But this guy will be over there. He's gonna be charged with keeping it destabilized. And they're going to say, it's for American interest that you do this, General Michael. I would dare say that he would probably totally disagree with everything that I'm saying. He would say, you're not privy to the discussions and stuff that I have about what China and Russia is actually. I understand what China and Russia is actually trying to do. I understand that they are no better than the U.S., but I'm saying one of the things that Africa needs to be allowed to do, if they're free, independent, is to be free from those that once colonized and helped them. And that also, that while these nations are fighting amongst themselves, the African nations, you need to be leery of any of them. You need to be starting to set yourself up with your own manufacturing bases, so you won't have to send your raw materials out, which these General Langley would definitely probably be in disagreement over. He would probably, say that, and you can already see they setting the pace for this, with this nullification of shale being able to explore for oil off the Cape Coast of South Africa, which, although I don't trust shale, I don't think shale is good in itself, is good for Africa. I do think that the African nations should form their own oil companies, and they should do their own oil exploration at a environmentally secure method in order to harvest that wealth for themselves, right? I believe that, but by them using the puppet of Shell, Shell was gonna do all this economic disaster and mess with the whales and the great whites off the coast of South Africa. Why don't you rid them out of Nigeria? No, you won't do that, right? You won't do that where they've messed up the Niger Delta. Now that it seems like Nigerians are tired and they want people like Buhari out and they want Peter Obi. We will see what General McMichael has to say about a Peter Obi government in Nigeria, or will he still be friendly toward Buhari and urge the Nigerians not to get behind Peter Obi and all those that want to cause the whole of the nation of Nigeria to prosper from what's going on and get the military technocrats, Democrat people out of the Nigerian government. I would dare say that just like America accuses Russia of having something to do with elections, America has been doing it for a longer period than Russia has been doing it. Let me say that. In fact, looking at one of these articles that he's saying that's one of the primary things that they're talking about is the intrusion of the Russians in the Chinese into the African political thing. They want Africa to go with who they want Africa to go with. They want them to buy their vaccines and their weapons and stuff from them, not from Russia. And they're using the black face to do it, right? And it talks here about him being from a military family, that his dad is a retired um, military guy and all this other kind of stuff. And using that, he's just one of the boys from the South that made good and all this kind of stuff. I'm telling you, this is not good. Africa, all the prayer warriors out there, y'all need to get on your knees and pray that Most High will expose this AFRICOM for what it is, because it's not good for Africa, right? To continue on this path of militarization, right? That they want to continue the skirmishes in a new form of bush wars to go on in Africa, like what's happening with the Tigray people or whatever, and this terrorism. Right now, understand, I'm not. I believe that anytime you have a quote unquote Islamic country, that there's definitely a opportunity for what's that radicalism to form, and even with Christianity too, definitely can be. But I'm saying definitely with Islam, it can be organic without the West intervening. But definitely when you have these Islamic countries all over Africa, that America can get in there and create some radical elements that will cause these nations to be destabilized and allow for U.S. forces to send in forces to quote unquote put down terrorism, which this article out of Army Times is talking about. The Africa needs to be aware of violent extremism and all these different things, and how AFRICOM, is playing a strategic part in that by reinserting U.S. rotations back into Somalia to put down Al Shabaab, which, by the way, was quote unquote born in America, was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and other parts of Minnesota and Vermont and all these other places that they sent Somali refugees to after America pulled out of Somalia in 1995, and the country collapse and chaos, all those that had helped the U.S. and was seeking asylum, they brought thousands of them back here to America. And within the time of some of those children that were born here on this soil and growing up, that they said that they got radicalized around the war on terror that came out in 2001, 2002, and went back to Somalia, to their parents' homeland, to try to free them from Western influence, and they call themselves Al-Shabaab. And they've been in power ever since, and destabilizing the nation, right? Also the fact that other nations, right, were coming through the territorial waters of Somalia fishing, but then getting mad when the Somalis would come out there in their territorial water. Now, some of them went outside of it and attack these ships and ransom them and say, if you coming in our territorial waters, then we're going to pay for it. And if you don't pay for it, we're going to grab your ship and make you. And that's why some of these companies was paying. They knew what they was doing, but they fostered this so that the navies of the nations would have pretense to go into the Somali territorial waters and police them and give safe passage to any ship. This guy is going to be over all of that. You understand? To keep this destabilized. So we gotta pray against this. The last guy that was in was a white guy, Townsend. Again, as he comes in, he's gonna be the quote unquote good cop, but he's gonna be the most dangerous one. And so I'm telling all you prayer warriors out there, all you believers in Yeshua, Hebrews that's on the continent, you need to ask the Most High Yah to open your leaders' eyes, or even to get these leaders out of here that's being friendly toward AFRICOM and any other military command from any other country that's coming in there. Because I'm hearing that Chinese are bringing in their troops in South Africa and some other places to protect their companies. You don't need to be doing this, right? But now is the time of the shaking. Yah is shaking all these nations, China, Russia, and America, with economic upheavals, with natural upheavals. And now is the time for you on the continent to wake up and shake your self free of these people. Get what you can get out of them, and then get them out and get them out of there. Now is the time. So with that, I'm going to ask you to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to ask you to subscribe and leave a comment. Be blessed.